Hello grade 9s, welcome to lesson 4 of chapter 5, and today we are going to be subtracting polynomials. So there's a couple things that we need to think about when we're dealing with subtracting polynomials. So here's an example, and then kind of exactly what's going on. So we've got a binomial and another binomial, and we're subtracting them with each other. We have them in brackets, so we have to remember that this minus sign is technically like a minus 1, okay? And once again, anything that's outside the brackets needs to be applied inside the bracket. So in front of this one, we technically have a positive 1. So I can take that positive 1 and I can multiply it to everything inside the bracket, and I can actually just remove these brackets in this situation. So I'm going to have 3x squared minus 4x. Next, what I'm actually doing is I'm saying minus times 2x squared, and then minus negative 6x. Okay. So this is actually how it gets distributed. So that negative gets distributed into both of the terms of this binomial. Okay, so if I expand this a little bit further, I'm going to get 3x squared minus 4x. A negative times a positive is going to be a negative, so minus 2x squared. I have a negative times a negative, which is going to be a positive, so plus 6x. Okay, so this is my next step. Now, what I want to do is I want to gather my like terms. So I've got my 3x squared, so I've got 3x squared, and then I've got minus 2x squared. Okay, so that was this one and this one. Now I'm left with minus 4x and plus 6x. Okay, now I'm just trying to simplify it. So if I have 3x squared and negative 2x squared, that's going to leave me with just an x squared. Now I have negative 4x and positive 6x. That's going to leave me with plus 2x. All right. So when we're actually distributing out to do the subtraction, this negative has to apply to all the terms that are inside that bracket. Okay. So I've got a couple more examples that we'll go through. Okay, I'm going to turn my my thing sideways because these are a little bit longer. All right. So here we've got. We're doing a trinomial minus a trinomial, okay? So we've got negative 2, we'll use a this time, a squared plus a minus 1 minus, we've got a squared minus 3a plus 2. Okay, so feel free to pause it, try it out, and then I'll go over the answer when you're back. So, I can just take out the brackets in the first one. So I've got negative 2a squared plus a minus 1. Okay, now I need to basically take each of these individual steps, each of these individual terms, and multiply it by negative 1. Okay, I'm going to actually skip the step where I put each of them in a bracket. I'm just going to basically apply. So I'm going to go negative 1 times a squared is going to be minus a squared. So I've got now that negative. I have a negative times a negative 3a is going to be positive 3a. Now I have a negative times a positive 2 is going to be a negative 2. All right, so my next step I'm going to gather. So I've got negative 2a squared minus a squared plus a plus 3a minus 1 minus 2. Now, when I put everything together, I'm going to get negative 3a squared plus 4a, and then negative 1 and negative 2 is negative 3. So I've got negative 3a squared plus 4a minus 3 becomes my final answer. All right. Hopefully you were able to get something similar. We'll do one more example for practice. So let's go with 5x squared minus 3xy plus 2y squared. So once again, we're going to be using common terms, okay, or like terms. So 8x squared minus 7xy minus 4y squared. Okay, so my first step is I'm going to try to get rid of these brackets, and I'm going to distribute this minus, or the negative 1, into all three terms of my trinomial. Okay, so my first one I'm just going to leave, so 5x squared minus 3xy plus 2y squared. Now I've got a negative times a positive, so I'm going to have a negative 8x squared. A negative times a negative is going to be a positive, so plus 7xy. A negative times a negative is also going to be a positive, plus 4y squared. Now I'm going to gather my like terms. So I'm going to put my x squareds first, so 5x squared, and then I've got a negative 8x squared. Then I'm going to take my negative 3xy, and I've got positive 7xy. I've got a 2y squared and a 4y squared. Okay, so that's it for gathering them. Now I'm just going to simplify. So I have 5 and negative 8 is going to give me negative 3x squared. I have negative 3 and 7, so that's going to give me positive 4xy. And then I have 2 and 4, both positives, so that's going to give me a 6y squared. So this becomes my final term. So that's how I've basically simplified and subtracted everything. All right. So that is subtracting polynomials. If you have any questions, make sure that you bring your questions to the Zoom meeting or contact me through Hangouts. All right. Good luck with the homework.